with Rafael Devers over $300 million, and now this news on Trevor Story. What more can you tell us? Because I'm sure we're, like us, you're just kind of learning what's happened over the last 24, 48 hours.
Yeah, we had a chance to talk to Chaim Bloom, and he laid out what happened with Trevor. Basically, he was the second baseman all last year, and it was a very good one, but had some elbow issues that didn't affect him too much at second base. When he started getting ready to play shortstop with Xander Bogaerts gone, that's when the issues popped up again. They decided surgery was the best way to go about this. Now they've got some real trouble because they don't know who their shortstop is. They don't know who their second baseman is. And Kike Hernandez, who they were counting on being their center fielder, maybe he's going to play shortstop. So everybody talks about a team needs to be strong up the middle. Right now, the Red Sox have a lot of question marks up the middle, and that's a big problem. It's spring training only a few weeks away.
And no timetable set on his return, correct?
Well, when you look at the internal brace procedure, which is an alternative for Tommy John, sometimes the player can come back within 5 months. So maybe he could be a DH at some point this season, maybe get to shortstop in September. But they don't want to put a timetable on it because you don't know what's going to happen. But it's fair to say he's going to be, if nothing else, he's not going to be the shortstop anytime soon for the Red Sox.
All right, so when they signed Trevor Story a couple years back, 6 years, $140 million, his arm wasn't quite what it was earlier in his career in Colorado. Did the Red Sox ever think that at some point surgery was going to be a necessity anyway?
Yeah, Bloom said today that they didn't feel that way. That when they traded, when they signed him as a free agent, they felt like he was going to be okay. But you did see when he was playing second base last year, that his arm wasn't what it used to be, that he was playing with a brace on it. It was obviously something that he was dealing with. His throws didn't have the same velocity that they had as a shortstop. Now, as a second baseman, you don't need the same velocity. But there were times that he would be behind the bag, and you can see that it was an effort for him to make those throws. I don't think it ever affected him in the field. And, in fact, he was a very good defensive second baseman. But the idea that he did have an elbow issue was something that you had to think about as they were turning to him to play shortstop.
Yeah, as the world turns in Boston, never dull moment for Pete Abraham and Red Sox Nation. Pete, we appreciate the info. Let's bring it back inside Studio 3 with Carlos and Mike. Both of you guys play for the Red Sox. I mean, you grew up in the Boston area here. Let me start with you. I mean, obviously, this is a team that finished last a year ago in the AL East, and they were hoping to see if they can, get right back in the mix. This definitely hurts.
This hurts, and welcome to the world of being a front office guy for the Red Sox because, Bogaerts, there's a sting. There's a sting from the fan base, and it seemed like, was there a real, true effort to re-sign one of our guys? Well, then you get the feel-good story. At least we got Devers back. This is kind of like, wow, we got to deal with the negativity again. It's tough. And you look at that lineup, and their numbers were pretty good in AL ranks, in slugging and runs scored, they were fourth. But now you subtract Xander Bogaerts, you subtract Trevor Story. I mean, you take away your 2-3 hitters from any team, Judge, Rizzo, Soto, Machado, Arenado, Goldschmidt. You look like a totally different team. So how much more pressure is now put on guys like Justin Turner, like Yoshida, new guys coming in where usually, if you want to be a complimentary piece, you have a little bit of time to get your feet wet in a market like Boston. Now this is, full go. Hopefully we get banner years out of these guys.
Good luck getting your feet wet in Boston.
Just to be able to compete. So this is tough. Chaim Bloom also did mention that even with Trevor Story, if he was healthy, they were looking to add, reinforcements up the middle, whether it was in the infield or in center field. Now you're not reinforcing. Now you're replacing.
Right.
And names like Elvis Andrus, maybe Jose Iglesias have been thrown out there. But, I don't want to disrespect those guys, but they're not the caliber player that Xander Bogaerts or Trevor Story are. So the team, they got a lot of holes to plug. And if you say, man, I just got a starting rotation that I can totally lean on, there are a ton of question marks there as well. So a lot of things got to kind of fall into place pretty quickly if the Red Sox want to be able to be a competing force in that AL East.
My goodness, and that's a vast understatement.
Yeah.
I mean, the pressure is just enormous. And when you take on that job like Chaim Bloom did, I mean, he understands what he's coming into, and he comes with this mentality from the Rays where he had to be extremely creative over there with the talent that they had. But this is not the Rays, farm system. They're going to have to address this from the inside, and maybe it is Kike Hernandez who comes over and plays shortstop. Maybe it's Arroyo who moves over and plays some shortstop. But like you said, Mike, they will be be replacing, which leaves another spot open. Who's going to replace Arroyo? Who's going to play second base? What's going to happen? So this is a huge problem. I think we may be even understating how difficult this is going to be for the Red Sox to address.
And Mike, you brought up a good point. We spoke earlier about this, and his arm wasn't the same. I mean, and the Red Sox knew that when they signed him. And some people, Red Sox fans, maybe said, "Hey, why didn't he have the surgery earlier? Why didn't he have it, at the end of the offseason?" Heim said that wasn't anything that they were thinking about at the end of the regular season this year. And you made a good point that surgery is an option you only want to go to if you have to.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think, a lot of teams do exit physicals on guys. They want to see the state of the union, where they are at the end of the season, maybe to compare it to the beginning of the season. You're never going in saying, man, hopefully we can have surgery on this guy. You never want that. You never want to go under the knife, because then there's rehab and there's a timetable and there could be complications. So I don't think this is something that the Red Sox delayed.
Right.
I think it's something just like Chaim Bloom said. Now with the WBC, games were coming a little quicker. Trevor Story said he was going to play for the USA team. Maybe he started throwing a little earlier, right around Christmas time, and he was like, hey, Red Sox, I feel something. We got to look into it a little deeper. I would say there's two possible silver linings.
Okay.
A, like Pete Abraham said,
okay,
you're not a pitcher that has to get ready to be able to go 100% from the mound.
Right.
So a guy like that with the
DH,
DH,
out for the year.
Of course, at second base, he could get away with it. At DH, maybe his bat could play at some point earlier than if he needs to play shortstop. And B, if the season does not go well for the Red Sox to start out, and you just see that you just can't compete in this division. You've got guys like Duran, you got guys like Casas. You can kind of give them a little bit of a longer leash to see what do we got. Because with the Red Sox, they have this.
Yeah.
And they have the ability to change their roster quickly. Yep. So those things play. You're not going to win the World Series every year. And when you look at the talent on paper right now, are they better than the Blue Jays? I don't think so. Are they better than the Yankees? I don't think so. Are they better than the Rays or the Orioles? It's debatable. Right. So it's not only are they in a tough spot, they're in a real tough division as well.
It's called internal bracing procedure, and Bryce Harper, he had the UCL situation, so he did have Tommy John surgery. But the two things: A, he played, he DH'd all last year,
right,
and then the Phillies are expecting him back in 2023. So this is kind of a new procedure that is coming out, and they're hopeful that it's not as invasive. So they're hopeful that good things will come, and we'll see Trevor Story in 2023. But as we get more information, we'll pass it along. Going to take a break here on MLB Tonight. When we come back, more on Carlos Correa staying in Minnesota, but also not staying in the Big Apple. We'll get that word on the street in the city that never sleeps, and I'm sure it's wide awake right now with Correa skipping town.
Are they better than the Blue Jays? I don't think so. Are they better than the Yankees? I don't think so. Are they better than the Rays or the Orioles? It's debatable. Right. So it's not only are they in a tough spot, they're in a real tough division as well.
It's called internal bracing procedure, and Bryce Harper, he had the UCL situation, so he did have Tommy John surgery. But the two things: A, he played, he DH'd all last year, right, and then the Phillies are expecting him back in 2023. So this is kind of a new procedure that is coming out, and they're hopeful that it's not as invasive. So they're hopeful that good things will come, and we'll see Trevor Story in 2023. But as we get more information, we'll pass it along. Going to take a break here on MLB Tonight. When we come back, more on Carlos Correa staying in Minnesota, but also not staying in the Big Apple. We'll get that word on the street in the city that never sleeps, and I'm sure it's wide awake right now with Correa skipping town.